Let me paint a picture for you. There's a couple living in a decent apartment in a busy city. Both of them are educated, both of them have stable jobs, and from the outside, everything looks perfect. She works in a corporate office, handling campaigns and presentations. He works in tech, solving problems behind a computer screen all day. Together, they earn what most people would call a good income. If you look at their bank statements, you'd assume they're doing well. If you ask their relatives, they'll say they've made it. But if you step inside their real life, the story changes. They wake up early, rush through mornings, skip proper breakfasts, and spend hours commuting. By the time they come back home, they're drained. Conversations are short, energy is low, and money, it's always tight. At the end of every month, there's barely anything left. Savings exist, but not enough to feel safe. One unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, or a family emergency can shake everything. Now here's the strange part. They didn't make any bad decisions. They studied hard, they got stable jobs, they avoided reckless spending. They followed the path everyone recommends. So why does it still feel like they're running in place? Most of us grow up believing one simple idea: if one income is good, two incomes must be better. It sounds logical. If one person earns enough to survive, then two people earning should create comfort, savings, and financial freedom. But in reality, something very different happens. Instead of creating freedom, two incomes often create dependency. Not dependency on people, but dependency on both incomes continuing forever, and that's where the real problem begins. At the start, everything feels exciting. Two salaries mean better options, a better house, a better location, better schools, better lifestyle. So naturally, decisions start adjusting to match this higher income. Instead of choosing what one income can handle, people start choosing what two incomes can manage. A slightly bigger house becomes reasonable. A second car becomes necessary. Living in a more expensive area becomes worth it. None of these decisions feel wrong individually, but together they build something dangerous. A life that cannot function without both incomes. Here's the subtle shift that most people miss. The second income stops being a bonus and starts becoming a requirement. At first, it's extra money. Then it becomes helpful money. Then it becomes expected money. And finally, it becomes essential money. Once that happens, there's no turning back easily. Because now your lifestyle, your bills, your responsibilities, they're all designed for two incomes, not one. There's another layer to this. As income grows, expectations grow even faster. Not just personal expectations, but social ones too. You start comparing, not intentionally, not consciously, but slowly. You see people upgrading homes, you see better cars, you see vacations, gadgets, lifestyle upgrades. And without realizing it, your normal starts shifting. Things that once felt like luxuries now feel basic. And this isn't about being careless or greedy. It's human nature. We adjust to our environment, but this adjustment has a cost. Most people think the issue is overspending, but that's not entirely true. The real issue is something deeper: fixed commitments, expenses that cannot easily be reduced. Rent or mortgage, car payments, childcare, insurance, utilities, education. These aren't optional. These are obligations, and once they're set at a level that requires two incomes, you lose flexibility. There's one word that explains everything: margin. Margin means breathing room. It means having space between what you earn and what you must spend. It means having options. Years ago, many families operated with margin, even if income was lower, because their expenses were built around necessity, not maximum capacity. Today, many households operate at full capacity. Everything they earn is already assigned, already committed, already needed. So even if income is higher, security feels lower. When both incomes are required just to maintain your life, something changes psychologically. You're no longer working to grow. You're working to sustain. Every paycheck is already spoken for. Every month is already planned. There's no room for mistakes, no room for pauses, no room for change. And that creates constant pressure. Even if everything is going fine, it doesn't feel stable. Because deep down, you know, if something stops, everything shakes. Now imagine this. One person in that couple has to stop working, not forever, just temporarily, maybe due to health, maybe due to family needs, maybe burnout, maybe something unexpected. What happens? Income drops, but expenses don't. The structure remains the same, but now it's unsupported. That's when stress turns into crisis. Here's the truth most people never say out loud. In many cases, people didn't gain security from a second income, they traded flexibility for lifestyle. They gained more comfort but lost margin. They gained more income but increased dependency. They gained more options but locked themselves into higher commitments. And once you're inside this system, it's hard to see it because everything looks normal. Everyone around you is doing the same thing, so now the real question isn't, how much do you earn? The real question is, how much freedom does your income actually give you? Because if your entire income is required just to maintain your current life, then it's not creating freedom. It's maintaining a system. And this is where things get even more interesting. Because the second income doesn't just disappear into lifestyle, it also gets reduced in ways most people don't calculate properly. Taxes, time costs, lifestyle adjustments, hidden expenses. When you actually break it down, the picture becomes very different. In fact, in many situations, the second income adds far less value than it appears on paper. And sometimes almost none at all. Now let's go deeper. Because up until now, everything we've talked about is the structure of the problem. But the real eye-opener comes when you start looking at the actual value of that second income. Not the number you see on paper, but the number that actually improves your life. When people talk about income, they usually focus on the total amount. But that number can be misleading, because what really matters isn't what you earn, it's what you keep after everything else is accounted for. And this is where things start to change. Let's imagine a situation. One person in a household is already earning enough to cover most essential expenses. The second person starts working, bringing in additional income. At first glance, this looks like a huge advantage. But slowly, certain costs begin to appear. Some are obvious, some are hidden, and some are so normal that people don't even question them. When both people are working full-time, something valuable disappears. Time. And when time disappears, it gets replaced with spending. Cooking becomes ordering food, cleaning becomes hiring help, free time becomes paid convenience. These are not luxury choices. They are often necessary because energy is limited. After long working hours, people don't have the capacity to do everything themselves. So money fills the gap where time used to be. Two working individuals means two schedules, two routines, two sets of responsibilities. Managing life becomes more complex. This leads to more spending on transport, childcare, convenience services, quick solutions instead of efficient ones, again, not because people are careless, but because they're trying to keep everything running. There's another cost that's rarely discussed: mental exhaustion. When both partners are constantly working, the household runs on limited energy. Decisions become reactive instead of planned. Short-term comfort starts winning over long-term strategy. You choose what's easy, not what's optimal. And over time, this pattern quietly increases spending. Now combine all of this. Higher earnings on paper, but also higher taxes, higher fixed costs, higher convenience, spending, higher stress, and suddenly, that extra income doesn't feel as powerful, because a large part of it gets absorbed into maintaining the system itself. Even if the second income doesn't add much net value, it still influences decisions. Because people think in terms of total income, not effective income. So they buy homes based on combined earnings, commit to expenses based on both salaries, build a lifestyle that assumes everything will stay the same, and this creates a fragile structure. One that looks strong, but depends on everything going perfectly. The real risk is zero flexibility. Because when your system requires both incomes at full strength, you have no room to adjust. No buffer, no fallback. You're operating at full capacity all the time. And systems that run at full capacity don't handle shocks well. Imagine a household where basic expenses can be covered by one income. The second income is not required for survival. There's space between income and obligations. That space is called control. That space is called freedom. That space is what most people are actually chasing, but don't realize. Instead of building life around maximum income, build it around minimum requirement. This doesn't mean earning less. It means structuring differently. It means asking, what is the minimum we need to function comfortably? And then keeping your fixed costs within that limit. Once your base is covered by one income, the second income becomes something powerful again, not a necessity, but a tool. A tool for saving, investing, reducing stress, creating options. Now you're not working just to maintain life, you're working to improve it. This approach brings back what most people have lost: margin. With margin, you can handle unexpected situations, you can make decisions without panic, you can slow down when needed, you can adapt, and most importantly, you're not forced to keep everything running at full speed all the time. At first, this approach feels restrictive. You might live in a slightly smaller place. You might delay upgrades. You might not match the lifestyle of others around you. But something powerful starts happening over time. The gap between your income and your expenses grows. And that gap becomes savings, investment, security, freedom. Slowly, you move from survival to stability to control. There's another benefit people don't expect. When you're not financially stretched, your decisions improve. You think more clearly, you plan better, you take smarter risks. And over time, that leads to better outcomes, not just financially, but in life overall. Most people define success as earning more. But a better definition is needing less to feel secure. Because income can increase and decrease, but a well-structured life gives you stability regardless. The biggest mistake people make is assuming more income automatically equals more security, but that's not always true. If your expenses rise with your income, then nothing really changes. You just operate at a higher level of pressure. The goal isn't to maximize income. The goal is to maximize control over your life. And control comes from lower dependency, higher flexibility, strong margin. At the end of the day, this isn't about working less or earning less. It's about understanding how the system works. Because if you don't, you can work harder, earn more, and still feel stuck. But once you see the pattern, everything changes. You stop chasing income blindly and start designing a life that actually supports you. Now the real question is, are you building a life that depends on everything going right, or a life that can survive when things go wrong?